Hello, and welcome to the Sycamore Junior High School band classes. My name is Rich Gordon, and I'm the band director at Sycamore Junior High School. In this video, we're going to discuss two things that you'll need to know before you get started, including how to get an instrument and what other supplies you'll need before you can start playing that instrument. I hope you've already watched our other introduction video, but if you haven't, I'll leave a link to it in the description below this YouTube video, or you can just search for it on my YouTube channel. Now, if you already have your own instrument, go ahead and watch this anyways, because you might pick up some useful information. We have a lot to discuss, and I'll also leave some links in the description below so that you can skip around if you need to. But for now, let's go ahead and get started with our first topic, how to get an instrument. Here we go. Alright students, so if you're going to be in a band class, then you're going to need an instrument that you can play with at home. So if you already have your own instrument, then thank you for being prepared. And thank your parents for giving you everything you need to be successful in our class. If you don't have your own instrument, don't worry, I'm going to tell you 3 different ways that you can get an instrument sometime in the next few weeks so that you can play with it at home. Now, before I talk about how to get an instrument, I'd like to talk for just a minute to the beginning students who might not even know which instrument they want to play yet. If you're in one of the beginning band classes, then one of the things that we're going to do in the first few weeks of school is to talk about the different instruments that you can choose from, and then you can choose which instrument you're going to play. Now, I'll go over this process in more detail during one of our meetings, but I just want to make it clear that a beginning band student at Sycamore will be choosing from one of the following 8 instruments: flute, clarinet, saxophone, French horn, trumpet, trombone, baritone, or tuba. For right now, those are the only instruments that beginning band members can choose from. We don't offer guitar, piano, drums, or any string instruments like violins or cellos to our beginning band classes. If you are interested in learning one of those instruments like guitar, drums, or piano, you'll have to wait until you're promoted into one of the advanced band classes, which I typically only do after a beginner has had a lot of experience in beginning band. Okay, so once you've decided which instrument you're going to play, now it's time to talk about the 3 different ways that you can get that instrument to play with at home. If you're in the percussion class, these 3 options are also going to apply to you, but what you'll need is a bell kit that comes with a drum pad, a set of bells, and a stand. So the first option is for you to go buy your own instrument either at a store or online. Having your own instrument is awesome, and if you buy a good quality instrument and if you take care of it, it'll last for a long time. This is the same instrument that my parents bought me over 30 years ago, and it still works great. Now, of course, instruments can be very expensive, and if you start looking online or in stores, you'll find price ranges from a few $100s to several $1,000s, so it's up to you and your family how much you want to spend on an instrument. However, you do need to be careful when you're buying an instrument, either online or in a store, and make sure that you're buying a good quality instrument. Make sure you don't just pick one because you like the price or the color. Just like buying a car, do some research and find the best deal, and you'll probably get what you pay for. Many of the cheapest instruments are not very good quality, and you'll find yourself having difficulty playing them, or they'll break in the first few months. In class, I'll be providing you with a list of acceptable brands to look for, and if you have any questions, don't hesitate to contact me before you buy so that you don't end up making a purchase that you'll regret. The one recommendation that I can make right now is that you look into buying Yamaha student instruments, which is what we use at Sycamore. They might be a little bit more expensive than some of the other brands, but Yamaha makes good quality instruments, and you will definitely have a much better experience working with a good quality instrument rather than a cheap instrument that doesn't produce a good sound. Now, I know what you're thinking, but let me just say before we go on that I do not get any money by recommending Yamaha instruments. I am not sponsored by them at all. Yet. Many stores and websites also sell used instruments that you can find for much less than the cost of a brand new instrument. I always tell my students that it would be better to buy a good quality used instrument than it would be for you to buy a bad quality new instrument. There are websites that you can search for used instruments such as eBay or even Amazon, but buying used instruments online can be risky because you never know what you're going to get, and of course you should always clean the instruments before you use them. Now, because of the cost of new and used instruments, buying one of these might not be something that you can do right now, and I certainly understand that. You don't have to buy your own instrument to be in a band class. There are other ways that you can get one. Option number 2 is for you to rent an instrument from a music store. There are many local music stores that have good rental programs, and instead of paying $500 to $1,000 or more for buying your own new instrument, you can rent an instrument from the music store, and it'll cost you anywhere from $20 to $50 a month. It depends on what instrument you're renting. There are many good reasons for renting an instrument. One good reason to rent an instrument is that you can change your mind. If you don't like playing the instrument after a few months or a year, you have the option of exchanging it and trying something else. Another good reason for renting an instrument is that if you go to a good music store, you can rest assured that you're getting a good quality instrument that has been cleaned and tested and guaranteed to work, and if you have any problems with it, you can take it back to the store. For more information about renting instruments, I recommend that you contact or visit your local music store. We are very fortunate to have a good music store right down the street from Sycamore called Music and Arts, and they will be more than happy to go over all the pricing options if you give them a call. Good music stores like this are also taking extra precautions right now to make sure that the instrument that you're getting is very clean and safe. And finally, option number 3 is for you to borrow an instrument from our school. If buying an instrument or renting an instrument is not something you can afford right now, the school does have a limited supply of instruments that we can loan out to students to take home. Now, there is no cost to borrow an instrument from the school. You don't have to pay any money. Parents will just have to sign a contract saying that you'll take care of the instrument and that you're responsible for any damages. Also, there's no guarantee that you'll get the instrument that you want if you borrow from the school. It depends on the number of requests that we get versus the supply that we have at the school. Most of the instruments that we have at Sycamore are used, but let me assure you that the instruments have been quarantined and cleaned and they're safe to bring home. If you borrow an instrument from Sycamore, that instrument will not have been touched by anybody else for at least the last 2 weeks, which is much longer than the time that the COVID-19 virus could possibly survive on the instrument. Every instrument that you pick up from school will have been cleaned very thoroughly with soap and water and sanitizing spray. If those assurances aren't enough for you and you don't want to borrow from the school, you always have the option of buying or renting your own instrument from a music store. The process for checking out our school instruments will be explained during the first few weeks of classes and will include a contract that must be signed by the student and the parent to ensure that the instrument will be well taken care of. So those are the 3 main ways that you can get an instrument to practice with at home. Now, of course, there are a few other ways. If you have a friend or a family member that you can borrow one from, just make sure you clean it before you play it. I'm going to provide you with links to the cleaning videos so that you can clean your instrument at home. Just be careful and make sure that you use the right techniques and the right supplies to clean your instrument so that you don't damage it. Okay, so now that you know all the different ways that you can get an instrument, let's talk about some of the supplies that you'll need to buy before you can play that instrument. If you're going to be borrowing an instrument from the school, you'll need to buy a few of these supplies first before the school will let you borrow the instrument, especially the mouthpiece. If you have your own wind instrument at home, then you probably already have your own mouthpiece. But if you're going to borrow a wind instrument from the school, whether you're advanced band or beginning band, you should really buy your own mouthpiece because this is a very personal item that goes on your lips and you really don't want to share it or use one that somebody else has used before. For advanced band and jazz band members who are borrowing a school instrument, you probably already have your own mouthpiece, but if you don't, I recommend getting one as soon as you can. And again, anybody who's going to play flute or percussion, this information about mouthpieces doesn't apply to you, although flute players will still have to buy the cleaning supplies. So there are 2 ways for you to purchase the mouthpiece and the supplies that you need for your instrument. You can either go online and order it, or you can go visit your local music store. But before you do either of those 2 things, make sure you know exactly what you need to get, and that's what the next part of this video is about. Now, I'm not going to talk about prices in this video. That'll be up to you to determine how much your family is willing to spend. If you remember what I said in my last video about how buying an instrument is like buying a car, the same thing applies here to mouthpieces. You definitely want to make sure that you don't buy something that's too cheap, but you also don't need a very expensive professional mouthpiece. So go ahead and do some research and shop around on your own. For now, I'll just tell you what you need and I'll let you decide how much to spend. Okay, so now I'm going to talk for about 20 to 30 seconds for each instrument, and I'm going to show you everything that you'll need to be able to play and maintain the instrument. So when I get to the instrument that you play or that you're interested in playing, you might want to pause the video and take a screenshot so that you'll have a picture of everything that you need. So I'm going to put up a list on the screen right now, and this list will tell you exactly when in the video I talk about each instrument, so you can skip ahead to the instrument that you're interested in if you'd like. If you're a beginner watching this for the first time and you aren't sure which instrument you're going to be playing yet, you might just want to watch them all because it'll help you decide which instrument to choose if you know what you're going to be expected to buy. I'll also put links to each specific instrument down in the description of this YouTube video, so you can click on those links if you need to come back later and find it. If you're going to play flute in our class, the only materials that you will need to purchase is the cleaning rod and the cleaning cloth. These are used to clean and dry out the inside of the instrument after each time that you play it. You don't have to buy the cleaning cloth from a music store. You could also just use handkerchiefs or even a cut up old piece of a white t-shirt. Just be careful not to use a fabric that's too thick. Also, keep in mind that you'll need the Essential Elements for Band method book, so if you buy everything you see on this screen, you should be set. For clarinet players, you will need a plastic clarinet mouthpiece. Remember, this looks similar to a saxophone mouthpiece, but it's a little bit smaller, and you can't use a saxophone mouthpiece on a clarinet, so make sure you actually get the clarinet mouthpiece. You'll also need a ligature and several reeds to start. I recommend buying a box of 10 reeds, and again, make sure you get clarinet reeds, not saxophone reeds. And you can start on size 2 reeds for beginners and size 3 for advanced band members. You will also need a cleaning swab to clean out the inside of the clarinet, and a little container of cork grease to help you put the clarinet together. Also, don't forget about the Essential Elements for Band book. For saxophone players, you'll need a plastic alto saxophone mouthpiece, and make sure you don't buy a clarinet mouthpiece because they look similar. Also, keep in mind that there are different types of saxophones, so if you're a beginner, you're probably going to be starting on the alto saxophone. Make sure you don't buy a tenor saxophone or a baritone saxophone mouthpiece. Just like a clarinet, you'll also need a ligature and several reeds to start. I recommend buying a box of 10 reeds, and again, make sure you get saxophone reeds and not clarinet reeds. You can start on size 2 reeds for beginners and size 3 reeds for advanced band. Another very important item that a saxophone player needs is a neck strap to hold the saxophone while you're playing it. So make sure you get that, and also you'll need a cleaning swab to clean out the inside of the saxophone, cork grease for the neck of the saxophone, and don't forget about the Essential Elements for Band book. If you're interested in playing French horn, you'll need a metal French horn mouthpiece. You'll also need a bottle of rotor oil and tuning slide grease. Please make sure that you don't put slide grease in the rotors. A cleaning snake will help you clean out the inside of your instrument, and also don't forget about the Essential Elements for Band book. Trumpet players will need a metal trumpet mouthpiece. I always tell students to get a size 7C if they're in beginning band, and a size 3C if they're in advanced band. You will also need a bottle of valve oil and tuning slide grease. Please make sure that you don't put tuning slide grease on your valves. A cleaning snake will help you clean out the inside of your instrument, and also don't forget about the Essential Elements for Band book. Trombone players will need a metal trombone mouthpiece. Make sure you get the small shank mouthpiece, not the large shank. Also, you will need a bottle of slide oil or slide cream, and a container of slide grease. Please don't get these two confused. Slide grease goes on the small tuning slide at the top of the trombone, and slide cream or slide oil goes on the big slide that you move in and out while you're playing it. Trombone players will also need a spray bottle filled with water, and a cleaning snake to clean out the inside of the slide. And of course, don't forget about the Essential Elements for Band book. Baritone or euphonium players will need a metal mouthpiece that's exactly the same as the trombone mouthpiece. So if you buy one that's labeled as a trombone mouthpiece, that's okay. Just make sure you get the small shank version, not the large shank. You will also need a bottle of valve oil and a container of slide grease. A cleaning snake will help you clean out the inside of the instrument, and also don't forget about the Essential Elements for Band book. If you're interested in playing tuba, you'll need a metal tuba mouthpiece. Tuba mouthpieces are a little bit more expensive, so if you want to play tuba and you can't afford to buy the mouthpiece, just contact me and I'll see if the school might be able to get one for you. You will also need a bottle of valve oil and a container of slide grease. Please don't get those two confused. You don't want to put slide grease on your valves. And of course, don't forget about the Essential Elements for Band book. If you're in the percussion class, you will need a bell kit with a set of bells, a drum pad, and a stand. These kits usually come with their own sets of mallets and sticks, but if you want to buy your own really good pair of drumsticks, I recommend the Vic Firth SD1 Generals. Remember, you don't have to buy your own bell kit, you do have the option of borrowing the kit from the school. But we will be using the bells and the drum pad every day in the percussion class, so you will need to get one. If you're worried about the bells or the drum pad being too loud in your home, I'll show you a few tips to make sure that you're able to practice a little bit quieter. Also, the percussion class will be using the Essential Elements for Band book. Alright students, it's up to you and your parents to make sure that you have everything you need to get started this year in band. The sooner you buy or order your supplies, the better, because right now everybody's starting school and thousands of band students are going to be looking online or in the stores to buy their mouthpieces and supplies. So if you wait too long, you might not get the best prices or the best deals. Plus, shipping times might be a little bit slower right now. I hope this video has helped you to understand everything that you'll need to get started in our band classes. If you have any questions or difficulty purchasing the items, please feel free to contact me at gordon_r@auhsd.us. For now, stay safe, stay happy, stay healthy, and I'll see you again next time.